Alright. Reichenfaust talking points here. Episode 2. Yesterday, when I was introducing my subjects, I mentioned Captain America Winter Soldier. I did not enunciate or elucidate on it. I apologize. There's actually a lot of important information there. It's probably because I was just thinking in terms of Nazi disclosures that are in the media. That's why I named Wolfenstein, Captain America, the first and second one, all that kind of stuff, right? And that's one of the big points about Winter Soldier, is it shows you that there still is a Nazi faction in charge of most of the world. The deep state is inside all these different services, whether that's Hydra, the hands of the Illuminati, the fingers, all the various symbolism there. It is a very big piece of Alliance propaganda. Okay? It's very counter against the Illuminati. It shows, just like Laura Eisenhower talks about, okay, that there are algorithms, and the psychopaths and the intelligence people have been looking at this ever since computers came around, because they were using methods like coercion, bribery, blackmail, all those things back before they had computers. And if you can reduce a person's personality down to mathematics and branches of choices, well, you can make a computer program. It's fairly easy, if you have the resources. The only reason I can say it's easy, from my point of view, is that, well, I just look at what they have and the abilities and resources and technology that is at their fingertips, right? Soviets were talking about mind control, EM, ultra-low frequency mind control in the 60s, and how they had a complete brain map for using just that version of mind control. Okay, so the much more sophisticated version of mind control that has emerged today is the algorithmic mind control, and that specifically was shown in Captain America Winter Soldier. Right? Everyone, even before they're born, the algorithm is already onto them. It's predicting their futures, their past, and it's trying to place blocks in their way so that they evolve as the computer wants them to. Right? Now, we're also going to get into Thanos, a little bit more of Gotham, and there was another one I wanted to discuss. I was going to think about, I was going to try to do Calvin and Hobbes, but that'll be another day, because this big thing with Thanos and the archetype he presents, and then the depths he will sink to for his plan, really reflect the Illuminati in a lot of ways. Now, when I go back to Winter Soldier, and I see that all the powers and themes that they are presented for the bad guys, the point of the Winter Soldier specifically is that they're trying to show you that no matter what technology you've developed in the open, whether it's CRISPR technology or super soldier tech or gene editing and electromagnetic stuff, they've already perfected it with a man like the Winter Soldier. As you can see, the Winter Soldier was pretty much, Bucky was superior to Captain America in literally every way. He was faster, he was better trained, and he was more ruthless. Okay? And he was using also bionic arm that was just about as tricked out as any of the Stark suits were. Another major thing they wanted to show you there. The Illuminati really don't like dying. That's why they showed you Arnim Zola truly able to transition to the computer. They don't even acknowledge the fact that they have a soul, because this ties very much into Thanos again. They don't want the universe to work a certain way, and they'll do anything to stay in this density, this dimension, right? Because they love it. They can dominate us quite easily. I'm just a lonely old guy, a little guy on a freaking computer, talking to 7 subscribers maybe. Hopefully my videos get out there and people see, the significance of comic books and movies and TV shows, because there's a lot of stuff there that the elites try to sell us. And the things you got to think about, why am I talking about that stuff? Well, the elites run the world. They're rich. The 1% has as much wealth as 50%. Now, they aren't all assholes. They are not. You got to think about, each and every one of these guys maybe a psychopath of a certain order, or there might be genuinely good people who got there. I don't know about that these days because the system's so far gone. But what I think is that they all have an agenda. And some of them have an agenda for getting information out for one reason or another. And that's why a lot of times these guys are tapped, these Hollywood people are tapped to spread propaganda and information. Like Black Panther, like Winter Soldier, the Avengers movies. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was about how the only way you can have family is if you destroy the ego, or eliminate it at least, and get it down to a manageable level. You know? Now, that being said, these people have to play the game against the others. Otherwise, those others will see exactly what they're doing, because they're also smart too. They're not stupid. Why do you think Barry and Honey Sherman died last December? They were heavy contributors to the Clinton Foundation. Maybe they realized what they were doing at the end of their lives, and then thus, So elites have to be careful, because even they know they don't get to move with the machine behind them, the system. They're fighting against the system too. And whether that's because they want to run a better world, or they want to use greater technology to manipulate people and make them more productive so they can still be the lords and ladies of the day, that's going to fail too. Okay? But you have to accept the information for what it is. That is potentially, possibly true. Okay? Especially given the fact that there is a monstrous amount of insiders and whistleblowers these days. I was really happy to see that, because I trusted Snowden a lot, but then when QAnon just came out and talked about how he set up and pretty much destroyed the NSA, and the thing is, I hold credence with that because the NSA is helping these days. Okay? They genuinely probably only wanted during their time to actually just see the information to make sure there was nothing going wrong. Maybe there was a lot of dark people at the top, but and I don't mean black people, okay? Dark side, light side, okay? Black is beautiful, white is beautiful, human is beautiful. Everybody is beautiful. It doesn't matter what creed I did not name there. I don't need to virtue signal that, okay? I love everybody. I love everything. Because I realize that we are a soulful universe, and if it wasn't for the service to others path that the matter in front of you had, your computer, your animals, the air that we breathe, the universe would not exist. There's no such thing as a mechanistically reductionist universe. It does not work that way, and most of the famous scientists that have actually made great discoveries in the last 120 years have concluded that God has to exist. Even Einstein said God doesn't play dice with the cosmos. God orders it exactly. It's an exacting order of everything. Of course, Einstein, whether he was told to lie or didn't, or omitted the truth, he still believed everything was relatively, motion was relative. Well, it's unfortunately not true because of all the experiments that have been going on. Ernst Silvertooth, he's a big guy in the physics world. You should take a look at some of his experiments and the works of Paul Violette and Tom Valone. They're very, very good for that kind of stuff, talking about the technology and everything. Yeah, so Winter Soldier shows you there's a big war, and you can't trust anyone within the deep state because they don't even know who to trust within there. And that's why S.H.I.E.L.D. has to fight against itself at the very end, and that's why a big portion of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series was focusing on the Hydra attack and how much they were messing up behind the scenes. Okay? What kind of access they had, what kind of serums they were getting, what they were hunting after. A big part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series is that Kree drug. Kree in the comics aren't known to be very special. They're actually an evolutionary dead end. Yes, you heard that. They're an evolutionary dead end. They cannot evolve. So it's very interesting in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show that you see a group of government people that are trying to take this drug, put it into other people to change them and make them better soldiers. And especially what with the 4 super soldiers in Age of Ultron. Okay? That was quite important there. And it shows you what kind of monsters they make you into, mixing that blood. That's not anything to do with the Kree in the comic books as far as I know. Never was. Kree used teragenesis. The Kree used technology and exotic crystals that actually they couldn't affect their genome. Which turns out, I think teragenesis crystals in the Universe X, they showed that teragenesis crystals, Eternals, all those things that were impregnated in each planet with their energies that they needed, what was a celestial plan to consume the planet and make a new celestial. Yeah, wrap your mind around that. It's very, very big stuff. And I'm not trying to talk about this as a... Well, the reason I talk about this stuff when everyone else is talking about all the new stuff, like I did drop QAnon's name and all that crap, but there's enough people focusing on the news side, the economy side, and all those different things that I don't need to focus on them. Okay? That's why I bring you this and I tie it into what I know. Right? So the Kree in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. series and in the blood being used in the Age of Ultron movie, and all the weapons of Hydra in the series and in the Captain America Winter Soldier, right? They were pre-targeting people. They had aircraft carriers that were invisible. Another big thing from Avengers. Pete Peterson, when he saw that aircraft carrier, he was stunned. He was stunned, according to Dave Wilcock. And he was like, wow, they're actually showing this now? And if you look carefully, some of the shots look choppy, yes, but sometimes you can't really say, like, is that all CGI? I don't know. One of my biggest things with CGI is I know when the computer technology evolved. For my people who know computer graphics, bump mapping didn't come around until 2000, 2001. Okay? They only had polygons that showed a structure. So this right here would have been a pentagram, or sorry, an octahedron. I can't even. Pentagon, there we go. It would have been straight, and then it would have gone out here, and then back in here, and then straight. Or is that an octahedron? Yeah, it would have been a deformed pentagram, or pentagon. I keep saying pentagram for some damned reason. So, but it wouldn't have my hair, which you can sort of see right there. It wouldn't have my veins. They would be a very flat looking thing. Bump mapping gave each of those textures the ability to raise and lower and sprout new things like hair and texture, right? Skins. If you go back and look at the movie Total Recall, where the hell did they get the computer technology to show that spaceship? That is one of the most well-decorated spaceships I've seen in media, in a movie. And it had rust on it. It had dust that played across its hull. And it looked worn in areas. 80s? 80s CGI? No, they used costumes. Well, then how did that ship take off and leave? Well, what the hell, right? Conjecture, yes. But still, they did not have the CGI to run that as an image back then. Okay? Alright. Now, back to the Gotham stuff. Jim Gordon's a really important character. Living on the edge kind of thing, where he tells about, the fear lets you know what's going on. And it's funny, I go back and I watch the early seasons now that I finished all the Court of Owls stuff, and his first instinct is always right with things. He wishes later on that he had acted upon them. So we're being taught to react against our instincts. Right? I can't remember specifically what that one was. It was in episode 2, Selena Kyle, season 1. Now, that being said, we'll move on to Thanos now. There's a reason that Thanos is being pushed so hard, and he's going to be doing 2 movies. Zoe Saldana said that she had just finished filming Quest, and she was coming back next year to film Gauntlet. Anyone who knows anything about the Infinity Wars, the Infinity Series, the Infinity Gauntlet, well, they know that Thanos' first mission, his first journey, his first major expose, was the Thanos Quest, in which he stole the gems from the rest of the Guardians, not the Guardians, of the Elders of the Universe, universe who are comparable in power to Galactus. They're very, very mighty, each of them. They had evolved 1 billion years ago, and they were last of each of their collective races, taking on to themselves all the power of their race. Power primordial, right? Thanos kills the elders, the old ones. He doesn't kill them. Some of them he leaves to torment, and he leaves them powerless before he literally tells them, I've taken your power, and now you're just going to watch me do whatever I want. Okay? And he's a very interesting character because he evolved about 10 years after that into someone who actually cared about the universe. It's really weird, really, really weird. It's a whole period where he was peaceful and remorseful. For Thanos as a character, it doesn't do well. It's an interesting story, an interesting study in how a person can change, but I didn't believe it for a second. Thanos loves death, but he also views death as a whore. Because death takes care of everyone. Death welcomes into his or her arms every soul that exists, no matter how small or how large. Thanos views that death should only have one lover. Therefore, she should only know one soul. Therefore, he has to overthrow and destroy the universe, so he can have death all to himself. And to do so, he has to overthrow the powers of space, time, reality, power, mind, and soul. So, most people already know how this is part of most of the universe, right here. Space, time, reality, mind, power. Okay, you need all this for the cosmos. Most people over here don't consider this the most important. Okay, I actually thought they made a large mistake when they introduced Doctor Strange as a. We'll actually get onto this one in a second with the time gem, because I thought they were being really too light on the magic stuff. Like, it was really, really dumb to me to go to multi-dimensional stuff. But at the same time, it has a good points to it, and it's we weren't looking at traditional Marvel magic when the Sorcerer Supreme Yao was teaching him that. We were looking at quantum magic more so. Use magic manipulating the underpinnings of the universe. They made a major mistake because they didn't use the soul gem. They introduced Dormammu in a great way. They showed him as an extra dimensional conqueror who was literally had consumed his multiverse kind of thing and was just trying to add more to it. It's really ridiculously overpowerful. But why would they skip the soul gem? Soul is really important. If you want to try to establish that it's a mechanically reductionist universe, no better way than to take out the soul gem. Okay? You just don't even include it. The soul gem could have been used by any one of Doctor Strange's enemies, whether they're classic or contemporary, to form a major threat. Meaning, Strange would have had to been trained very, very fast, and they would have been giving a lot of different things in order to be able to match someone who had, like Mephisto or Nightmare, who had taken control of an army of undead, powerful souls using the soul gem. Because the soul gem has access to every soul that has ever existed or ever will exist. In a way, it is like the combination of the powers of Galactus and the Phoenix Force. Because I don't give a fuck how many times they fucking retconned it. When the characters were more powerful and universal in nature, it was a much better series to read. When they retconned the Beyonder into a fucking stupid mutant who had went through the Terrigenismus, I was like, you guys can just go fuck yourself, The Bendis Nerf bat came into play, you know what I mean? So the soul, because during a fight one time, Phoenix had fought Galactus, and Galactus said, I am the totality of everyone that has ever died, and you are the totality of everyone who's ever been born. Can't you feel that? You're using their energy up before they even get to live. And she was like, oh, huh. So the soul gem is a composite of both of those powers. And I don't like how they try to say, oh, there's only one Phoenix Force across the multiverse. Bullshit! Okay? The only true entity that exists, two of them, that are not repeated throughout the multiverse, because they can view every dimension simultaneously. They're omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. Living Tribunal can do that because he is charged and given the power by the one above all. Now, that's the nature of Thanos' character. before even setting out, he made sure he had all of his plans. He made sure he was stronger than any god, more energetic, more skilled with power. And we've learned recently, after he cursed Deadpool a little while back, but easily skilled in magic. He's like a bigger, tougher, meaner version of Dr. Doom. And the only reason Doom became God Emperor is because Thanos was part of the Cabal, and he didn't have a chance to take over the power that Doom saw. And that's why Doom was given his limelight, his big spotlight in Secret Wars. Okay? That also is another point. It doesn't matter which one of these people want to take over. They all have plans to turn us into their little slaves. Whether they want to, well, not little slaves. They all want to harm us. In Dr. Doom's world, we'd be living in perpetual warfare with every domain. Each of us would have powers, but, you know, even the X-Men, their territories were constantly under attack from the hellish demons of the Dark Dimension. No, it wasn't the Dark Dimension. That's Dormammu. I can't remember that stupid craphead who went after Illyana Rasputin. All I know is Dormammu would squash him like a bug. He's nothing. Okay, he's literally nothing. He's a subdemon. Mephisto would bitch slap him. Okay, so just shut up. I don't want to be playing any power bullshit. I don't need any power levels. I don't need to discuss shit about that. I'm just trying to give you guys, you comic book friends, a little bit of information and tell you about how disclosure is coming about. Alright? Many things to prepare you for these kinds of stuff. Okay? So again, Thanos' character. He hates everything in the universe. He hates that death looks at everybody and loves everybody, which is what we should all be doing. We should be loving everybody, every aspect of life. And we should start understanding what is a aspect of life that is natural and what is forced and conditioned. Okay? Thanos will do anything to overthrow the universe, including taking from all the others who know how to maintain it, who know how to guide the races that are in it, and he will kill everyone that's in his way, including ending it, so he can be alone with the one he loves. Doesn't that sound like the most wounded, hurtful person you've ever heard of? Who just, because they don't have any love in their life, they think to take away the systems of other people. Isn't that an emerging fact with many of the leftist peoples? It's like, we don't want to have that, so you don't get to have that. We don't want a family because we're fat, we're ugly, so you don't get to have a family. Well, they're not all fat and ugly, but you know exactly what I mean. Like, ugh. Big point. Season 1, episode 1 and 2. Gotham. Harvey's talking about they're selling kids for food. Is that even possible? Well, you just have to have an understanding of, you know, what produces what in the human body, what is a chemical that is produced from different areas, and how. It was in a child prostitution article recently about how they're the most profitable things that can be sold these days, because while a drug or a gun can only be sold once, children can be sold 10 to 15 times a day. If you know how to regenerate stuff, well, organs can be sold consistently. It's totally believable that the Chinese are running those factories with Buddhists and monks and Christians in there, where they just rip their organs out and they force them to regenerate them after time. Because it's actually less resources to heal somebody if you truly know how to heal them. It is. It's a lot less. The chain of command that Q has been talking about, the cancer drugs that'll be coming out soon, they're going to shock everyone. As well, Gordon asked Falcone if he gave the order. Falcone said, because he was holding his gut in, you know, kind of thing, holding his poker face. Sorry. He said to him, the Waynes were killed by a random mugger. At least that's what everyone reported, right? So Gordon's first instinct was to question, wait a second, is there somebody And that's why he dismissed it right off the bat, because the first season is about the crime that everyone is just going to discover soon. Now, he dismissed it because he thought that they were the only most powerful people in Gotham. You don't get to see the stuff later on about Indian Hill and other things like that, and the Court of Owls until way, way later, right? Until after a lot of strange stuff starts happening. So Gordon's first instinct was that Falcone was ordered to kill the Waynes. But he dismissed it because he thought at the current point in time, Falcone was the most powerful man in the city. And he thought, no, it's not. It can't be possible there's someone above him as well, you know. But it was the truth, as he found out later on. Trust your first instinct. Don't trust the voice rebelting out information. Trust your instinct inside. Because I've done it a lot in the last while where I haven't trusted my first instinct. I haven't trusted what's going on. Because I don't trust myself sometimes. I have no self-confidence when it comes to a lot of stuff. And, as I've told you, I've cut myself before. Lots, you know. Self-confidence is built by knowing you are right. But at the same time, Mark Twain said, what we don't know can't harm us. It's what we know for sure that can hurt us a lot. Or no, sorry, it's what we know for sure that just ain't so. Okay? So, you have to corroborate. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Don't use other people's data for the most part. Try to decide whether in the framework of all the data that you're given, and then decide, is this right or wrong? You don't have to decide and problem solve using people's regurgitated information. You have to use your own problem solving, and you have to use the positivity negativity scale. And the way you do that, if you really want the keys to it kind of thing, you have to see how many people that the actions benefit. Does it make the society a better place? Does it alleviate the suffering? Or is it just another bunch of bullcrap and platitudes? You know, Mayor James, when he's redistributing the kids to the other systems. The system is complicit in this stuff. As you can see right away, those snatchers are back on the bus. They have access to the system. Did nobody catch on at the start when they said they pulled up in Mayor James's homeless outreach truck? Are you kidding me? Why would you put them on buses and, you know, not search everyone that's coming in there to be a worker? Do you know what I mean? So that was a major point right there. Excuse me. James and a lot of the people in the systems, like I said about the rungs of the ladder kind of thing and the bones and the blood vessels and top, they don't know what's going on. They're just doing what they think is best, and then it turns out the entire system is completely corrupt, and they can't do much about it. Oh, my jaw's hurting a little right now. I feel like I actually got punched in the face here today. Oh, fuck. Oh. So, let's go. Back on to Thanos. The first movie is going to show you how far they will go, the Illuminati, to overthrow everything. They're planning to destroy cities. They're planning to kill lots of people. Pathogens, bacteria, anthrax, the white powder in Trump Jr.'s freaking envelope? Are you kidding me right now? The destruction that he will unleash is what they're trying to show you, is that, you know, we can fight against this. We can destroy it. We can defeat them. It is possible. But if you listen to the right people, do your own research, and then look about the positivity and negativity. For my hippie friends, I recommend The Law of One. Really, really high level stuff. And I'm still making my way through because I've still got to read some of the works of C.G. Jung. You can get those off Amazon. Collect the works of C.G. Jung. Pretty important. He was very, very, very much of a mystical Western. He looked for the significance in everything. He was the one who came up with the ideas of synchronicity as a modern theory. Coming up on 30. So back to Wolfenstein stuff. Okay, I mentioned those guys the last video, and I didn't really talk about them. Wolfenstein's really important because they're trying to show you that Germans again had high technology in World War II. Right? It was beyond rocketry. It was beyond all that stuff. That was just mundane stuff that's shown out in the open. Most people are realizing nowadays that, oh wow, this stuff's been around for a while. Where are we getting these lasers and all these other things from, right? Nazis. Nick Cook does a wonderful job illustrating the search for actual information regarding Nazi technology and the basis for anything that happened back in the day. But ultimately, at the end, he has to conclude that, he really can't say whether there is or not, because there's no definite proof, and it's all been scrubbed from the scene. The Americans took a number of rail cars. The Russians took a number of rail cars. The Russians got 268,000 scientists. The Americans got 36,000. I don't care how many less you say it is. 36,000 is my number. And they put them all to work trying to get the technology to the next level. And because of the fact that anti-gravity and free energy are the same thing, well, they'll never let that out in the open unless they're forced. I don't know if I trust too much what Benjamin Fulford and Dr. Michael Sala are saying right now about the German secret space program in the Antarctic revealing itself. At the same time, there's been a large push showing Nazi technologies and the benefits they have and some of the other cool stuff they could release if they're altruistic. But I think we should treat this situation just like in Stargate SG-1, the Shen. Okay? The Shen were a race of superior people. Completely. They viewed themselves as superior. They also viewed themselves as intellectually just better than everyone else for having shed their emotion. They were basically a really bad version of Vulcan in the race of Spock. It's Vulcans and Romulans. Yes, that's what it is. Okay. The Ashen are content with sharing some bits of technology here and here, giving life extension here, giving this and giving that. And then 100 years later, that society realizes, oh crap, we're sterilized, and we don't even know how to educate ourselves. We're just here to farm now. That's one of the things, one of the plans. So anytime someone's going to reveal themselves, especially if it's going to be a breakaway civilization that claims to have advanced technology, well, we need to be really careful about what we put into our bodies and our societies. Okay? We need to understand that, physical modification comes through any number of means. And that's one of the points with the blood of the super soldiers. That relates to the blood of the ancient giants. How it would make you stronger, faster, and more instinctual, but it would also turn you into someone who craved flesh and just was into full-on dominance, whatever kind of dominance it was. Maybe the modern giants aren't as bad. Okay, maybe it was just mostly an allegory for how they destroyed the Neanderthal race, as described by Stephen Quayle and Lawrence Gardner in the Blood of the Holy Grail books. Okay? Specifically in the second one. Because there's Bloodline of the Holy Grail, and there's Lost Secrets of the Sacred Ark, and there's one in between. And that's what I was reading. Okay, so the ancient race's blood makes us stronger. Or does it? And that's what they're trying to show you. You become stronger that way, yes, but your other parts of you are suppressed. You have no reasoning anymore. You're not docile, you're enraged. You want to kill and you want to dominate and you think you're better. Now, whether that's just because, they were locked up, they were fighting against Hydra, they were true Russians, no. That's why they showed you the blood. Okay? That's why they show you the alien in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Because Kree blood has no significance in the comics. Terrigenesis and Kree scientists are responsible for making the Inhumans. Not the blood. And that is only a Kree. Could be an Atlantean, honestly, but didn't have gills. That's my honest belief, though. That stuff. Somebody's making noise outside. Now, with all that I just said, how Gotham's revealing to you of the trial trap. Oh, that was what I was going to get onto. Okay, yeah. Before you get into the Indian Hill stuff, before you get onto the Court of Owls, Fish Mooney is captured and taken to the island, right? The organ harvesting island. An industry is used, right? An industry is used there. And they've already mastered Frankenstein. Otherwise, how did they replace that one doctor's whole freaking body with mismatched body parts? That's not possible. That first human head transplant that's supposed to cook off? Okay, well, you know what? Gotham, as we see it, is supposed to be set in the 80s. Why do you think it looks so gothic? It's not because it's a rundown place and they can't replace the infrastructure. No, it's not. There's new buildings in Gotham, a lot of them. They like the Gothic architecture. And what slides past people's reasoning is that they're like, oh, well, it couldn't take place in the 80s. There was no technology like that back then. Excuse me, comics. Alright? The comics showed stuff like that back then. They showed genetic modification technology. They showed super soldiers. Deathstroke was a thing back in the 70s and 80s. Okay? They were already showing us the truth. First time the Helicarrier came out in Nick Fury's comics in the 1960s, I'm betting that's when they were able to actually put a freaking aircraft carrier up in the sky and camouflage it. Because that's also when they developed that engine where the pilot's standing on top of it, and it says underneath, even the pilot said hell no, and it's just a rotor sitting underneath him with a stick coming up, and he's standing on a platform, and it's just lifting him up and turning him places. And he's like, yeah, no. If you make those each 50 feet wide or something like that, increase their efficiency, increase the rotor speed, make the structure strong enough to handle it, well, you could potentially lift a ship. You just got to make sure your pressure zones form properly. That's the problem they had with the Osprey for years. They weren't able to control the pressure zones forming. Well, I'm really tired now. What it is? This is what I was thinking about. Actually, I'm going to show you one of my books right now. Hunger Games has a huge bit of disclosure in it. Not for about how they're going to fight and, all that stuff. That's old hat, okay? As far as I'm concerned. No, what I'm talking about is the dress Katniss is wearing when she comes in. Okay? J.G. Galliman has a lot of work in there about Wilhelm Reich, a lot of unusual energies, and energetic transduction between systems. The first bit of works in there are the works of Baron von Reichenbach. Okay? With the principles of magnetic reconnection that are discussed in Plasma Astrophysics, Boris Somov does a great book on this. Plasma Astrophysics 1 and 2. Source dipoles, things like that. With the magnetic reconnection, shearing lines of magnetic force produces an ionic energy, an ionic exchange. Well, it's also cold, too. cold electricity, right? That's how Nikola Tesla made his cold lamps. The dress and the costumes they're wearing in on the chariot, they're probably a specific type of outfit with magnetic filaments woven in that are always offset from the magnetic fields that are around people. So if you move with motion, you're cutting across a magnetic field and giving a flare of energy. That's also why the flames weren't dangerous. They were just energy coming off there. It wasn't high, it wasn't, a black body radiation energy like is in actual flames, because that's what actually is in flames. It's radiation. It's a high burst of radiation, okay? So with magnetic reconnection, you still get the flame effect, you still get the fireworks, but you don't get nearly as much of the danger, right? That's why it disperses really easy. The air doesn't feed it. That's why everyone's like, what are those? What are those? How do they do that without burning the dress, right? Well, magnetic reconnection, my friends, like John Searle talks about in his Searle engine. Create ionic energies that way. And J.G. Gallimore is a great place to start if you can understand it, because he has a lot of really interesting stuff in there. So, Hunger Games, big part of disclosure there. Magnetic reconnection, the magnetic technology. It's all in Hunger Games. They have those not flying cars, the monorails, the levitating monorails, a bunch of other things, right? They're trying to show you that only the Hunger Games, at least, that's exactly what the bad society wants. Did you see how beautiful those people all were? How dressed up and beautified they were. I don't think those people would have looked out of place at the the Queen of Spades court in Alice in Wonderland. I don't think they would have looked out of place. The whole city in the Hunger Games, because they were so beautified and prettied up, they'd fit right in, right? And that place was messed up. Their point in the Hunger Games is that the only time people will be happy and beautiful and have access to the ultimate technologies is when there's 12 other districts or something like that where we pour in the resources, and that's just the way it's going to be. It's a caste system, right? You saw how the food makers were above everyone else. Pete was above Katniss, right? And I haven't read the books, and I don't fucking care to. I just don't. I have enough time to read many other things on here that I have on hand. Alright? So, the breakaway civilization already exists. And to have it try to say that, oh, we're going to surrender our technologies to you, well, I'm really... It stinks like shit to me. Especially because I've seen a lot of stuff about how the Ashen were in the other comics. And I've read many, many other stories about, extraordinarily bad regimes that were very scientific in nature and tried to sterilize the shit out of other races. You can't even see it's not a plan anymore. Kenyan president is fining Pharmaco, I think it is, trying to kick them out of the country for sterilizing 500,000 men, women, and children. Right? If that's not true and that's not a thing, well, they're going to ignore a fucking sitting president over someone like Mika Brzezinski, who says that she's the one who's responsible for telling you what to think. Dudes, ladies, gentlemen, please stop drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. Alright? I'll try to do an in-depth analysis of Calvin and Hobbes and bring a bit of levity to things soon. And I'm going to rewatch some of those other movies to see if I can bring up any more disclosures that are being brought out. Yeah. I don't read too many comics anymore these days because I don't want it to influence me. But I do watch the movies occasionally. A lot of good information out there in the fields of video games and TV and movies. I think it's really amazing that the Chinese military is now openly showing the electromagnetic railguns and has claimed that they're building a Death Star super laser, right? 10 years ago, you never would have seen anything like that. 10 years ago, railguns were still considered impossible, even though people had claimed to build them. Ten years ago, my real father, told me that the United States had forced Russia to destroy all of its nukes at the end of the Cold War because he was a fucking blind fool. The naivete of people is disturbing. It's very disturbing. And for you deluded people to go out and think that just because you're protesting against someone you believe is a Nazi or believe is alt-right or something like that, you're Captain America and they're the Red Skull. Please, people. First thing Captain America would do is try to find out what's really going on. That's why him and Batman ducked out of the fight when Justice League Avengers came across the way. Right? You guys really need to be careful with whose side you're jumping on. And even I'm very careful about that because I'm still trying to posit things that are positive. I'm trying to figure out what's truly positive and what's truly negative. And start thinking about, how you're going to defend yourself in a court of law if you're a good person. Okay? The devil speak stuff's already begun. The refusal to arrest people for harassing and chasing you down has already begun. It's happening now in Austin, Texas. The Florida shooter situation. Multiple shooters, multiple corroboration of eyewitnesses, bodies being thrown in the back of trucks, bodies moved out of position. All that stuff is wrong protocol, and I don't fucking care what you try to tell me, alright? I do not care if you're some jumped up piece of shit that's going to come out here and say, oh, we had to do that because of this, and this. Fuck you. You probably weren't even there. Okay? We don't need someone to come out and tell us why we're wrong. We need someone to come out and tell us, okay, yeah, we fucked up. Okay? And admit you've done wrong. How is it that everyone in that school knew what Nicholas Cruz was going to do, but the FBI is like, who is this guy? You're complicit. It's the only reason. It's the only way. Because otherwise, you're just so bad at your job that you should literally get Donald Trump and Kevin O'Leary to go there and say you're all fucking fired. Serious. Incompetence of the highest order. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay? The remake of Total Recall, I really didn't like. Since I talked about Total Recall, and to talk a little bit more about that, 10 more minutes, I think. Yes, it was more true to the original book. But at the same time, Mars was a really good point. And that's why Mars is so out of place in the first movie, because it had no place in the book. It was just a dream. But yet they're showing the factories there. The reactor there. They're showing that Mars gains an atmosphere. They're showing that mutants and people are enslaved on Mars, and there's a dictator running things, which the British Interplanetary Society started talking about in 2015 when Obama passed that law to exempt corporations and of crimes in the solar system, past, present, future. Okay? The remake of Total Recall, which I haven't watched in a little bit, but I have seen, it's a very miserable world. And it shows you that even people get the technology, get anti-gravity, things like that, it's still going to suck. Because everyone's going to still be killing each other because there's perpetual violence and you need the turbidium and all that crud. You don't create free energy, more efficient energy stuff out of something that's cannibalized. Otto Schumann said it best when he talked about implosive technologies versus explosive technologies, and termed everything creative that is implosive and uses nature's principles as a term to everything Teutonic that is explosive and uses destructive principles. We still use only destructive technology. Our river engineering still sucks. Our hydrological cycle still sucks. We do not understand it. We got fucking Justin Trudeau over there telling us that, oh, I was worried about a carbon footprint from when my friends wanted to light a fire up in when we went on a camping trip. Hey, Trud not. What do trees need to produce the glucose that feeds them? In turn, spouting out the oxygen. They need CO2, you absolute buffoon. Your carbon tax is killing the planet because you have no understanding of how true biology, true nature works. Open-ended systems is how the universe works. And for you bastards to say that carbon is a fucking damaging point, when the trees need carbon, the plants need carbon, you're just wanting to eradicate the plant life so you can dole out all the food through the hydroponics facilities. Like, seriously, that's the only reason that could be. Because every time we remove the trees and we remove half of the hydrological cycle as established by Victor Schauberger, flooding, earthquakes, destruction, as the land tries to remorph itself into tries to gain access back to that water so it can heal itself, the blood of the earth. I don't know much else what I'm thinking about tonight, so I'm just rambling at this point. Something I was thinking about with that one. So, DC's Rebirth. Amazing story. Great ideas. But they're assassinating God. And whether you want to consider God as Dr. Manhattan, all of the archetypes are there. Right at the start of the Rebirth series, Manhattan talks about how he watches everyone. Well, isn't that something that God does? You know? And then he goes on. Talks about how similar they are and how he always liked watching different personalities and how they really reminded him of himself. That's God. And then you're going to take someone like Superman, who's beautiful, strong, mighty, supposedly a paragon. Well, if you think Superman's a paragon, you should read Irredeemable and Injustice, man. He drops Atlantis in seconds. You know, they can be very, very, very bad people. Okay, the superpowers, super people. And honestly, I think the one reason that we've never seen actual superheroes out in real life is because they're all too busy fighting or waiting to show what they are to the public to fight they're all fighting the evil bad guys that are really, really powerful. Because the bad guys are very much Lex Luthor and Tony Stark at the same time. They're inventors. They lost their powers. They really don't have that many left. And humans are starting to become a lot stronger than they are. Whether they're taller than us or heavier than us, we're going to reach a level where they can't match us because they just sheerly are out of their depth. Now, there are people on this planet that have been said they've been living for 13,000 years. David Icke has talked to a 5,000-year-old man, a shaman from, I think it was Guinea. But then again, I can't confirm it. I don't know David Icke personally. You know? That's one thing I wanted to mention. X-Men. X-Men, I think, is still, because of how popular they were in the 90s and how everyone wanted to get random mutations and stuff like that, right? There's no beneficial random mutations in humanity currently. Sickle cell anemia is not beneficial. It doesn't do its job. Random mutation does not exist as an evolutionary benefit. I'm still more sure on the Jean Lamarck epigenetic theories than I am on Charles Darwin's theories, because epigenetics can easily be reconciled with the idea of God. Because epigenetic evolutionary theories don't look at how the whole thing exists. They just suppose that each generation will bring in data that will change it. It doesn't look into the puzzle of where it came from. It just thinks that, more and more complex and balanced forms will emerge. Epigenetics almost actually supposes that, trees grew first, and then the ecosystems kept adding more and more until eventually we came about. Because if we all came from apes, well, why are there people with Rh negative blood? It's just, no monkey blood in them, no monkey genes in them, nothing, pure human, right? And it's not because of an evolutionary standpoint, because evolutionists that claim that, well, you have to use your calculations. How long would it take for the elimination of rhesus blood if we come from rhesus blood? Right? It sounds like a paradox. It doesn't sound like it's possible. Who cares? I'm just really tired today. I got explained to me that friends are not there to help you when you need it. They're not there to offer comfort. So, honestly, I think my definition of friends is a little more inclusive with help and benefit to people, other people who need it, than my friends consider it. And that's really offset me today. I have no friends. Zero. I have people I know in passing. And it was really hard for me to recognize that till now, because all I've ever wanted is friends who I could depend on, so we could have a mutually shared existence, and we could make the world a better place. No one else wants to, that I know. Everyone wants just to tell me I'm either stupid or, this can't exist for this reason, or you're dumb because of this reason, So I don't have friends anymore. I really don't. And that makes me quite sad. They might still consider me their friend. You know that? But at the same time, I don't know if I do, because my definition apparently is a lot different from everyone else's. If you do increase someone's comfort and they recognize it, shouldn't that person do a lot to help you with your own comfort? Apparently not. Right? And that doesn't actually matter to me as much anymore. That's why I'm just so sad and tired right now. I think I had a few more things I wanted to talk about, but no. That's it.